Hello guys, greetings from Placement Ski. I welcome you all to the lecture series on TCS NQT. I'll be covering the exact questions that was asked on October 25th, slot 2, and this part 2 of this series. Okay, part 1 I've already uploaded. Yeah. In this part I'll be covering questions from 11 to 20. Okay, around 10 questions I'll be covering. X working alone takes 75 more days than Y to do a work, and working together they complete in 20 days. Okay. If a certain sum has been earmarked as wages for his work, in what ratio should it get distributed among X and Y? Fine. So let Y be the number of days taken by Y to finish the work alone. Okay. Now it's told that X working alone takes 75 more days than Y. Therefore, the number of days taken by X alone to finish the work should have been Y plus 75 days. Now it's also given that together they complete the work in what? 20 days, right? They can complete the work in 20 days. We already know this, right? When A takes A days to finish a piece of work alone and B takes B days to finish a piece of work alone, if they are working together, they'll finish the work in how many days? AB by A plus B days. Yeah. I'll be applying that formula here. Okay. We know that X alone takes Y plus 75 days and Y alone takes Y days. So together they'll finish the work in 20 days. So I can say it as Y into Y plus 75 divided by Y plus 75, that is 2Y plus 75. This value is given as 20. Okay, now let's simplify this. What do we get? We get Y square plus 75Y is equal to, we get 40Y plus 1500. So if we transpose this to one side, we get Y square plus 35Y minus 1500 is equal to 0. Okay, so how can we split 35 as? We can split it as, it is 15 into 100, right? 1500 is 15 into 100, which can also be written as 60 into 25. So into 4 by 4. Yeah, so we'll have to split it as 60 into 25 to solve this. So what do we get? Y square plus 60Y minus 25Y minus 1500 is equal to 0. So what is the value of Y? We get Y into Y plus 60 minus 25 into Y plus 60 is equal to 0. So we get the value of Y as 25 or minus 60, which is not possible. Therefore, Y alone takes 25 days to finish the work, whereas X alone takes 25 plus 75, that is 100 days here. So I'm just writing the values here. Y alone takes 25 days. That's what we have got. And then we are told that X is Y plus 75, right? So X alone takes 100 days. Okay. Now what is the ratio of times taken by X and Y? X takes 100 days is to Y takes 25 days. So what is the required ratio? It is 4:1. Okay, fine. Now what will be the ratio of their efficiencies? Think about it. X is taking more time than Y to finish the work. Therefore the ratio of efficiencies will be the reverse ratio of the times taken. So the ratio of efficiencies will be 1:4. Yeah, X is less efficient than Y, right? That's what we've got. It is reverse, which is 1:4. Therefore, wages will also get distributed in the ratio of their efficiencies, which is 1:4. Even if otherwise, if you think about it logically, see, X is taking far more time than Y. Therefore, who should be paid more? Definitely Y should be engaged and he should be paid more because he's finishing the task earlier. So he should be rewarded better. Therefore, the required ratio is 1:4, which is option D. What is the simplified value of, this one? You're getting a lot of questions on this simplification based. Okay, we'll only have to remember BODMAS for that. Yeah, brackets of division, multiplication, addition and subtraction. So here we have brackets here, a lot of brackets are there. So this is one set of brackets here. See this one, the big one, and in the small set of brackets we also have this, right? So let's compute this first, the small set of brackets here. So 2 by 5 is 2.4, and then minus 3 by 10 is 0.3 divided by 1 by 3. We have 1 by 3 here. Okay, now we know that within the brackets also again BODMAS applies. Within this small bracket we have subtraction, we have division. So division takes precedence over the subtraction. So we'll first divide. So what do we get? 2.4 minus 0.3 divided by 1 by 3 becomes 0.3 into 3. We get it as 0.9. So the effective value is how much? It is 1.5. Okay, so the value in this bracket is 1.5. Okay, so let me write it here then. 1 by 18, and there's a big bracket. 7 1 by 3, I'm just splitting it. 7 3 is 21 plus 1, 22 by 3, minus 2 2 by 2, 2 1 by 12 is 12 2 is 24 plus 1, 25 by 12, and then into, we have a 6 by 25. Let's not cancel 25 and 25, because after that we also have this, okay, divided by this value, divided by 1 by 4 of this value 1.5, which is 3 by 2 of 3 by 2. We know that again within this big bracket, the small bracket, this is done now, okay, within this big bracket, again of takes precedence over everything. So therefore we are computing of first. 1 by 4 of 3 by 2, that's what we shall compute, and then we shall divide. So what is 1 by 4 of 3 by 2? I'm writing it separately. 1 by 4 of 3 by 2, we get it as 3 by 8. Yeah, so let's substitute that. What do we get? 1 by 18 into 22 by 3 minus 25 by 12 into 6 by 25 divided by 3 by 8. So we have a divided by 3 by 8. We know that division takes precedence again. Yeah, so divided, I'm just writing here 6 by 25 divided by 3 by 8. So whenever we divide, we'll just write the reverse of it, right? So 6 by 25 into 8 by 3. I'm writing the value directly. Now it's all easy to simplify. See, 25 25 is gone. What else? 6 1 6 2s, that is gone. 2 1s 2 4s, 8 gets cancelled. So effectively what do we get? 1 by 18 into 22 by 3 minus 4 by 3. So which we get it as 18 by 3. 1 by 18 into 18 by 3. So 18 18 cancel. So effectively we get the value as 1 by 3. PQR are 3 cups having capacities 120, 180, 200 cc respectively. They are completely filled with tea of 3 different varieties. Okay, there are 3 different varieties of tea. Now they are all mixed into a separate vessel which has capacity more than PQ and R together. That is, the separate vessel can accommodate all the 3 cups capacities. Okay, and then the mixture is poured successively into PQ and R. How much of P and Q stream will be there in R? Let's solve this stepwise. You know, P and Q, PQ are capacities of so on are filled with 3 different varieties of tea. Okay, that is captured here. Then they are mixed in a separate vessel which can fill them all. Okay. Now what is the ratio of 3 varieties of the tea in the vessel? In the big vessel, you know what is the ratio? It is 120 is to 180 is to 200. So we can cancel 20, right, for all the numbers. So what do we get? 26 to 120, 29 to 180, 20 10 to 100. So this is the ratio of the 3 varieties of tea in the big vessel. Now what's told? The mixture is successively poured into P, Q and R. What does that mean? First 120 cc. See, the total value is how much? The total is 300, 500, right? Total is 500 cc. This is what the big vessel has. Out of 500 cc, 120 is poured into P first, then 180 is poured into Q next, and finally 200 cc is poured into R. Okay. Now we know that the mixture has the varieties of P, Q and R in the ratio of 6 is to 9 is to 10. That's what we have found out earlier. Yeah. So therefore, what can we say? The 200 cc, we are pouring 200 cc into R, right? Finally, it has how much cc of variety P, how much cc of variety Q, and how much cc of variety R? Very simple. We know that the ratio has to be 6 is to 9 is to 10. Yes. Therefore, totally how many parts are there? 6 plus 9, 15 plus 10, 25. So 25 parts is equal to 200 cc in all. Yeah, so we can say that one part is equal to how much? It is 8 cc. Each part is 8 cc. Therefore, how much cc, how much volume of variety P? We have 6 parts, 6 8, 48 cc. And then how much volume of variety Q? It is 9 parts. So 9 into 8, that is 72 cc. And how much cc, how much volume of variety R? It is 10 parts, 10 9 80. Therefore, the volume of P and Q's variety in R is how much? 48 and 72. 48 is P's and then 72 is of Q variety. Is that clear? See, finally the 200 cc also has the P, Q and R in the ratio of 6 is to 9 is to 10. Therefore, we are just individually finding the values of the variety of P and variety of Q. That's it. So 48 and 72, which is it? It is option C. A room measuring 6 meter and 65 centimeters long and 4 meter 55 centimeter broad is to be paved with the least number of square tiles. Okay, they are preferring square tiles. Now what is the least number of square tiles required to cover the floor? Fine. So what are the dimensions of the room? First, it is 665 centimeters. I'm writing it as centimeters, and this is 455 centimeters. Okay. Now what is the area of the room? You know, it's a rectangle, right? So what is the area of the room? It is length into breadth, 665 centimeters into 455 centimeters. I'm not computing the value as such. Okay. Now the room is to be paved with the least number of square tiles. Least number of square tiles. Now think about it. If the number of squares has to be the number of tiles has to be the least, the dimensions of the square tile has to be the most. Yeah. Therefore, the side of the square tile should be as high as possible. Is it clear? If you want less squares, the dimension should be more. Yeah. Each square tile should be very big. Yeah. So now how shall we find the side of the square tile? So think about it. So let's try to look at the area. Okay. Let's split the area. We have 665. And then we have 455, right? So 5 1s 5, 15, 5 3s 15, 5 3s 15. So it is 133 into 5. Yeah. And then further, what is 133 can also be split as what? 7 1 7 7 9 63. So it is 19 into 7 into 5. So this is what we have. This is how we can split 665. Let's also split 455. It can be split as what? 5 9s 45, 5 1s 5. Yeah, 91 into 5, or 91 can be further split as 13 into 7 into 5. Now think about it. This is the area. Okay. So what is the maximum possible side of the square that is possible? So think about it. The side of the square can be 7 because we have 7 square term here, right? It can be 7. It can also be 35. Think about it. It is 35 into 35. So what I'm trying to say is the dimension of the square at max can be 35. So that we have 35 into 35, and then we have 19 into 13. That is, we have 19 into 13 squares of dimension 35. Is that clear? That is the maximum side of the square. It can also be, let me also write this for you. It can also be 7. The dimension of the square can also be 7. It can be 7 into 7. And then what else? All the rest, you should have 5 into 5 into 13 into 19. We should have so many small squares of this dimension 7. Or you can have only 19 into 13 squares of dimension 35 into 35. Is it clear? Therefore, what is the side of the square tile that is possible? That is 35. The maximum size possible is only 35 because that's a maximum square term that we can take out of it. Yeah. Therefore, this is the dimensions. Okay. So these are the dimensions. So how many such squares are required? It is 19 into 13. Okay. So let me capture here the maximum possible side of square that's possible is 35. Therefore, the least number of square tiles to cover the floor is 19 into 13. So what is 19 into 13? 13 20s is 260. 260 minus 13. 260 minus 13 is 247. Yeah, which is option A. I hope this is clear for everyone. Please rewind the video if you have not understood. Yeah. Okay, x is so much. What is the value of so much? Okay. So whenever we have surds, the very first step is to eliminate the surd in the denominator. Yeah. So we have x is equal to, I'm taking the whole square root 12 plus root 140 by 12 minus root 140. Okay. So let's rationalize the denominator. So what happens? Let's multiply with the conjugate. 12 plus root 140. Here also we have 12 plus root 140. So what is the value that we get? Square root of, we have 12 plus square root of 140 whole square divided by, we have a square, a minus b into a plus b, a square minus b square. A square is 12 square 144 minus square root of 140 whole square is 140. So what do you get? Square root of 12 plus root 140 whole square divided by the value is 4. So if we can cancel out the squares and square root, right? You get 12 plus root 140 can be written as what? 4 into 35, right? So it is 2 root 35 divided by 2 because square root of 4 is 2 and square root gets cancelled for the numerator. So what do we get? So effectively, what is the value that we get? We get 6 plus root 35. So this is the value of x. X is 6 plus root 35. Okay, we also have 1 by x term, right? So let's also compute that 1 by x. Okay, 1 by x is equal to, just do 1 by 6 plus root 35. So multiply and divide by 6 minus root 35 to rationalize the denominator. 6 minus root 35, 6 minus root 35. So what do we get? We know in numerator we have 6 minus root 35, denominator it is 6 square minus root 35 square, that is 36 minus 35, that is 1. Therefore 1 by x value is 6 minus root 35. Now it is very easy to compute these values. Check it now. X plus 1 by x whole square. X is 6 plus root 35 plus 1 by x is 6 minus root 35 whole square minus again x minus 1 by x. X is how much? 6 plus root 35 minus x. X is minus 6 plus root 35 whole square. So this is what we are supposed to compute. So what do we get here? These two get cancelled. You have 12 square, that is 144, and here these two get cancelled, and 2 root 35 whole square, so 35 into 4 we get it as 140. Therefore we get the value as 4, which is option A. So the takeaway is, whenever you have surds based questions, it's always better to eliminate the surd, eliminate the square root part in the denominator, so that it will be easy to compute. A rural library created lending facilities for only 100 books and kept the lending desk open only on Mondays. Okay, this is the first Monday, M1, and then see M2 is the second Monday, and this is the third Monday. So the library will be opened only on Mondays to to take the stock of the books. Okay. Now the position of number of books lent and returned on the first 3 Mondays of operation is presented. Okay. So blue is lent, and then orange is the ones that are returned. Okay. How many of these 100 books remained outside the library after stock checking on the third Monday? Now let me first write down the values here. Okay. So on the first Monday, M1 is the first Monday, this is the second Monday, this is the third Monday. Okay. Now on the first Monday, how many books were lent? Blue is lent, right? So let me write that. This is lent. This is also lent. This is lent. And then this, and orange is returned. Yeah, this is also returned. Okay. Now, how many books were lent? Clearly, it is 80 books. Yes, so 80 books were lent on the first Monday. How many books were returned? It's a first Monday, so no books were returned, so it is 0. Okay. Now, similarly, let me also capture the data in the table first. Okay. So let's say for the second Monday, how many books were lent? Blue, it is 60, right? 60. So 60 were lent, and how many were returned? 50 were returned. Okay. Similarly, for the third Monday, how many were lent? Lent 40 were lent, and then how many were returned? 80 books were returned. Okay, this is what is the data that is given. Now let's compute a few more values here. What are the books yet to return from the previous week? We know that this is the first Monday, so no books are yet to return. So total books outside the library, so only 80 are sent out, right, from the library. So 80 books are sent out from the library. Okay, that's for the first week. Now let's say for the second week, see 60 were lent and then 50 were returned. Now think about it. Now out of 80 books in the previous week, because 80 books were lent in the previous week, right? So out of 80, 50 were returned. The students have returned 50 books. Therefore, how many books are yet to return from the previous week? It is 30 books, isn't it? They've lent 80 books in the previous week, out of which 50 were returned. So there are 30 books from the previous week that were not returned. Okay, 30. Now think about it. What is the total number of books outside library? The fresh books that are lent now plus the books that were not returned in the previous week. Okay, so which is 90. So 90 books are outside library by the end of the second week. Now let's see in the third week. Again, what happens? 40 fresh books were issued. Now 80 books were returned, that is out of 90 books that were outside library that were lent till the end of the previous week. Now what happened? 80 were returned, so only 10 more books are to be returned. Out of 90, 80 are returned, only 10 more are to be returned. So 10 books pending from the previous weeks plus 40 books which are freshly lent. So therefore 50 books are outside library. So which is option B. This is a very interesting question. Yeah, I hope you guys have understood this. So the number of books outside library stock after the end of the third Monday will be 50. What is the simplified value of this? Yeah, it's a very simple question. Yeah, so how do we solve it? We have 0.397 by whatever is there in the denominator, just simplify. 1.2 square, which is 1.44, and 2 into 0.66, so 0.66 into 2 is 1.32. Then we have 1.1 square, which is 1.21. Let's add everything. 4217, 4379, 3.97. So we have 0.397 by 3.97, so it is ones and then tens, so we get the value as 1 by 10, which is 0.1. okay, which is what? 0.1, which is option D. Okay, the ratio of ages of A and B 9 years ago was so much. The ratio of their ages after 15 years will be so much. What is the ratio of the current ages of A and B? Okay, so see, let's assume the ratio of, let's assume the ages of A and B 9 years ago as 23x and 12x respectively. Okay, now what will be A's present age? 9 years ago, this was 9 years ago. Yeah, these are the ages 9 years ago. So therefore what will be their present age? Just add 9 years to this value, so you get 23x plus 9, and then B's current age will be 12x plus 9. So these are the current ages. Okay, now what are they told? We are told that the ratios of ages after 15 years. So what will be A's age after 15 years? This is A's current age, and this is B's current age. What will be A's age after 15 years? So 23 plus x, 23x plus 9 plus 15 again. Yeah. So effectively what do we get? We get 23x plus 24. So this is A's age after 15 years. Similarly, what is B's age after 15 years? Current age is 12x plus 9. To that we should add 15 years, so that you get 12x plus 24. Okay, this is what we get, and this, the ratio is given, which is 35:24, right? Therefore let's simplify this. Okay, A's age after 15 years, that is 23x plus 24, divided by B's age after 15 years, that is 12x plus 24. This value is given as how much? This ratio 35/24. So if you solve for this, you get the value of x, so that the problem gets solved. Okay, clearly all these are multiples of 12, right? So I'm cancelling 12 ones, 12 twos, 12 twos. So let's cross multiply 2 into this value. So 46x plus 48 is equal to 35 into x, 35x plus 35 into 2, that is 70. So what do we get? We get 11x is equal to 22. So we get the value of x as 2. Once we get the value of x, then everything is solved, right? So what are we supposed to find? The ratio of the present ages of A and B. Okay, so what is x value? X value is 2. Okay, that's what we've got. So what is A's present age? A's present age is 23x plus 9. So 23 into 2 plus 9. So 46 plus 9 gives us how much? It is 55. Okay, similarly, what is B's present age? B's present age is how much? 12x plus 9. So 12 into 2 plus 9. So what is it? 12 to 24 plus 9. It is 33. Therefore, the required ratio of ages of A and B is 55:33, which is 5:3. Option B. The median of the frequency distribution table is what? Okay, so you are asked a lot of questions on statistics, so I request you guys to please learn the basic concept of statistics before appearing for the next TCS NQT test. Okay, so I'm trying to convert this into class frequency and also the cumulative frequency. CF is cumulative frequency. Okay, so what is cumulative frequency? Just add all the values till that class. See, it is 12 for the first class interval. For the second class interval, it is what? 12 plus 26. Yeah, 12 plus 26. So you get what? 12 plus 26 is 38. Again, 38 plus 30, you get 68. 68 plus 8, you get 76. 76 plus 13, we get 89. 89 plus 11 is 100. That is totally 100 observations are there. N is 100. Okay, fine. Now what is n by 2? We know n is 100. That's what we have got, right? If you add all of this, you get 100. Okay, that's what you've got. So n by 2 is how much? It is 50. Then what is the median class? Okay, so what is the median class? Median class is the class which has the value n by 250. Okay, think about it. In which of these we have n by 250 value? If you look at it, the first class interval has all values till 12. The second class interval has all values till 38. Yeah, it has values till 38. whereas the third class interval has values between 39 to 68. Therefore 50 lies in this class interval. The middle value, which is 50, lies in this class interval. So this is supposed to be the median class. Or in simple terms, okay, just check the n by 2 value 50, right? What is the next highest value in cumulative frequency after 50? It is 68, right? So therefore this should be the median class. Let's say you've got, let's assume for a given question you've got the value of n by 2 as 23. See now, what is the next, the immediate highest value after 23 in cumulative frequency? This is this. So this should have been the class interval. This should have been the class interval if n by 2 were 23. Okay. Let me give you one more example. Let's say n by 2 is, let's say you have got 72. So look for the next highest value after 72 in cumulative frequency. 72 after 72, yes, this one. 76 is the next highest value after 72. So this could have been the median class if n by 2 were 72. Is it clear? So in this case n by 2 is 50. So the next highest value after 50 is 68. Therefore this is supposed to be the median class. Okay, fine. So we have got it as 60 to 64. What is the lower limit of median class? The lower limit is how much it is? 60. Yeah, that we have got lower limit. What is the cumulative frequency of the class over median class? This is the cumulative frequency of the class over median class, okay, which is 38. Next, what is the frequency of the median class? Frequency of the median class is 30. Now what is the width of the class? Width of the class, you have 5, right? 50 to 54, 55 to 59. So we have 5. Okay, so we know that median is what? The formula L plus n by 2 minus CF by F into H. Okay, this is the formula for finding median. Now we have all the values, so just substitute the values, you get the answer. What is the median now? L plus the lower limit is 60 plus n by 2 minus F. N by 2 is how much? Is 50 minus CF, cumulative frequency is 38, divided by what is the frequency value? It is 30 into height value is 5. So what do we get? 5 ones 5 6 30. So we get it as 60 plus 50 minus 38 is 12 by 6. 6 1 6 2 is 12. So what do we get? We get the value as 62. Therefore the median of the frequency distribution table is 62. See, this is procedure oriented, okay? Just know the procedure and then follow the procedure. Yeah, you will get the answers easily. Okay. Okay, in a factory, the coefficients of variations of wages of urban and rural workers are 52% and 62% respectively, and their standard deviations are also given. If 60% of the workers are urban, then what is the overall average wage of the workers? Again, see, let's assume that the mean wages of the urban workers and rural workers be U and R respectively. Okay, U for urban workers and R for rural workers. Okay, now we know that the equation that links coefficient of variation standard deviation is this. Please remember this. Okay, if you know this, you can definitely answer the question. Coefficient of variation is how much? Standard deviation by mean into 100. Okay, so let's try to apply this for urban workers. For urban workers, what is the coefficient of variation? It is 52%. So I'm writing that here. 52% is equal to standard deviation. Standard deviation of the urban workers is 2600. So 2600 divided by mean, we are not sure. That's what we are supposed to find. Mean of the urban workers. What is mean of the urban workers? It is U, right? U into 100. So what do we get the value? You get it as 26 ones, 26 twos, 52, 2 ones, 2 50s. Therefore you get the value of U as 550 into 100, that is 5000. Therefore the average the mean wages of urban workers is 5000. Okay, mean wages of urban workers, it is 5000. I'm writing that value here. Okay, rupees 5000. Similarly, let's do it for rural workers. For rural workers, what is it? The coefficient of variation is 66% and the standard deviation is 2640. So let's take it. Okay, so let me substitute it here. We get it as 66 is equal to the standard deviation is how much? 2640 divided by mean, we are not sure. That's what we are supposed to find, into 100. So what happens? Let's see this. 66 1, 66 4s, 40s. Yeah. So therefore we get the value of RS, how much it is? 40 into 100, that is 4000. Therefore we also got the mean wages of the rural workers as rupees 4000. Okay. Now what are we supposed to find? we are supposed to find the overall average wage. Okay, out of, we know that 60% are urban, so therefore the rest has to be rural. So 40% rural, whereas 60% is urban. So now finding the average, overall average wage. So how do you find the overall average wage? 60% of the average wage of urban, which is 5,000, plus 40% of the average wage of rural, which is 4,000, divided by 60% plus 40%, which is 100%. Yeah, so let's simplify this. What is 60% of 5,000? It is 3,000. Plus what is 40% of 4,000? It is 16,000. It is 1,600, is it? Okay, 60% of 5,000 is 3,000, yes. 40% is 1,600 divided by 100%, yeah. So what do we get? 3,000 plus 1,600 is 4,600, by 100% is 1. Therefore, the average wage of the total urban and rural workers put together is 4,600, which is option C. I hope these 10 questions are clear. Thank you, everyone.